Let's talk about trend spotting. Have we reached a saturation point with fintech? Big round of applause while I welcome the guests to the stage. Ganesh Rengaswamy, Managing Partner at Quona Capital. Upasana Taku, Chairperson, Co-Founder and CEO of Mobikwik. And Raja Mazrouei, Executive Vice President, DIFC Fintech Hive. Thank you all for joining us today. Don't you love the titles of these panelists? I know you do. It's quite sort of contentious. Have we reached a saturation point? And it engenders good debate. So to my left, pass the parcel. Have we reached a saturation point with fintech? Answer the question. Ganesh.
Yeah, as we discussed off stage, I think it's a very leading question.
Yeah.
And I think it couldn't be farther away from the truth in terms of where we are in the fintech cycle. So as I said off stage, I think we can say fintech is dead, but long live fintech, because we have a long way to go, and it's going to be rewritten in a big way in the coming decades.
Fintech is dead. I'm writing this down for my second T-shirt after my other one earlier.
Why are you saying that fintech is dead? It will be all over the headlines. What will we fintech founders do?
I think, do we have the time to go into this? What I actually mean is, I think it's going to get rewritten in a much bigger way than what we have seen in the past. So forget saturation, we're just getting started, which I think you would agree with.
What do you think, Upasana? I know you feel strongly about what's the saturation point? What does it mean?
So I don't think there is a saturation point, and I can say that from experience. So I started my career as a product person in fintech in the US. And even in that developed market or Europe, I think that the way fintech is set up will get overhauled. That's why, while there was a PayPal, in the last few years you've seen a Stripe and a Square and a Marqeta and all these companies come up, right? So the old technology gets depleted and new stuff comes about. In newer markets or emerging markets like India, where we've been building Mobikwik for the last 10 years, despite all that has happened in the last 5 to 10 years, there's been a lot of innovation disruption. But even today, out of a population of 1.3 billion in India, only 300 million Indians are transacting digitally. Less than 70 million Indians have access to credit. And less than 30 million Indians have insurance or have ever invested. So you tell me, I mean, if all the numbers are 5%, 10% of the population, I mean, just in India, it's a huge, huge opportunity. But I do believe that in larger markets or evolved markets also, the technology is getting disrupted very rapidly, because the old is no longer convenient, is no longer fast, and it will be changed. And I think that is one area where financial technology is something that India is doing really well at, and now Indian founders are trying to bring it to global markets as well.
Raja, how do you see things?
I totally agree. I mean, we're just getting started with fintech, and it's the tip of the iceberg. And fintech is really redefining the whole financial services sector as we know it, because digital and technology has redefined everything from the beginning and reset. I've worked with regulators, and they're all learning technology to understand how to regulate these services over technology. I believe there are a lot of work that's happening in fintech, but adoption is taking longer because the financial institutions' ability to work with this fast-moving development is taking longer than expected. I tried to apply for a bank account myself for my company, and I thought I could call someone and get it done, but let me go through the process. It's painful, and you have no idea. No matter how much these institutions invest and work with fintech startups, they're not able to integrate that technology.
Why not? Why aren't they able to integrate it, Raj?
I think it's the mindset, really, and then also the technology and the value that the technology is bringing is not really communicated at everyone's level. Probably you have an executive sponsor who's pushing this agenda, but it's not cascaded properly within the organization. I resubmitted my documents 5 different times because one edge was missing or whatever. And then the fact that sometimes you have to go and take your ID every time for every transaction just makes you wonder, This saturation point will take a very long time to get to.
Yeah. Ganesh, tell me about the opportunities. I mean, you're a VC company. You've got 50 more portfolio companies. You're present in Latin America, Africa, MENA, South and Southeast Asia. Where are the great opportunities right now in fintech?
Yeah, I think, excuse me, I think it's a long discussion, but I'll probably keep it to 3 broad areas that we are excited about. And the first one I already referred to in financial infrastructure.
Yeah.
And I think Raja and Upasana both referred to the fact that there's so much friction because our systems across the world are legacy in most countries. They're changing at different cadence in different countries, but essentially we're going to see a rewrite over the next decade, I would say. So broadly in financial infrastructure across every single possible use case, whether it's payments, lending, broader banking, insurance, wealth tech, so on and so forth. That's one broad area, and we're going to see a lot of things come out of that. The second broad area, I would say, is just the nature of finance, financial innovation and finance itself is changing. Again, as I was saying backstage, we look at fintech or financial innovation as the oil that greases the economic engine. It's not a be-all and end-all. It has impact across the economy, which means with open data, open commerce, open finance systems, we are going to see a lot more contextual and embedded financial solutions. So commerce and financial solutions, financial innovation, supply chain and finance, food tech and finance, health tech and finance, so on and so forth. So we are going to see a lot more embedded solutions and applications which are built on top of this infrastructure. Infrastructural revolution we're going to see in finance itself. So between those 2 broad areas, I think we are going to see tremendous amount of innovation and rewriting of finance.
We have one solution sitting next to you, one of the biggest fintech platforms in India, one of the largest mobile wallets, one of the largest buy now, pay later players. How quickly are you having to evolve and keep with the times when we talk about disruption and competition and opportunities as well, Upasana?
So I think it's nothing if you cannot be a successful fintech player if you're not continuously looking at what's next. So if you've started with one product, you try to get scale in that product. Now you have consumers, the consumers have problems. For us, we started as a mobile wallet for your daily life payments. So if you're trying to order a cab, order food, pay your bills, we are in all of those checkouts, and we want to make that experience very simple for the user. And then we realized, okay, while users are doing that, sometimes they want a refund, but our banks don't have such simplified processes to make that happen. So then what I'm trying to say is that either there are operational issues or there are consumer-facing, front-facing issues. And in all cases, you have to be ahead of innovation. So when we started Mobikwik, India did not have a wallet regulation. The regulation got written a couple of years later. In 2018, when we launched our Buy Now Pay Later Zip product, nobody in India was doing Buy Now Pay Later. And then, last year, because Square purchased Afterpay, all of a sudden we had like 1,000 companies doing Buy Now Pay Later. But it pays to be ahead of time. If you are ahead of time, then you have the time to experiment, to try different things, and then you know what is the right product market fit and how to scale that. The other thing I wanted to say is with regard to what she was saying, especially in a market like India where we operate, fintech is very regulated. So for everything you need a license. For payments you need a license, for investments, for credit. So it's the DNA, the product and tech DNA that most fintechs have, which differentiates them from the large financial institutions. That is very important. Innovation is very important. However, it cannot really create value if it is not done in tandem with regulation. So the fintechs that have to succeed even globally, I think they have to have a little bit of that banking DNA and a lot of the tech innovation DNA, and just the marriage of that is what helps you bring something to scale.
Is that right, Raja? Banking DNA mixed with tech DNA, and it sounds like sort of Jurassic Park. You mix it all together and out pops a dinosaur.
It's not that bad.
Mostly. But I would like to share an example that really enlightened my view on this. If you look at some of the successful digital banks, and I'm talking about the region, not only the region, globally, it is banks that set up tech companies to build their digital platforms, and those digital platforms were connected to the banks. And there are the tech companies that built financial products but did not have the bankers in there. You need a balance, you need both. You can't be one or the other, because if you don't understand the regulation, if you don't understand the process, you won't be able to launch. And we've seen a lot of them fail because they lack that. So the balance of knowledge and experience in both areas. But also innovation is very important at this point, because you're trying to do things differently. You're eliminating the middleman, you're making the processes more efficient, you're enabling the customers to have access to those services very quickly, anytime, anywhere. And to do that, it's an ecosystem. It's not just the technology, not just the banker, not just the telecom provider, not just the infrastructure. It's an ecosystem. And for you to push one product or an idea out, you'll have to lobby the whole ecosystem to support you to get there.
Yeah. Can we talk about India specifically? And you were saying we're basically we've barely scratched the surface. What's underserved when it comes to fintech in India? What hasn't been done? What is it? What's being seen to be difficult to achieve? What are the harder areas to crack when it comes to fintech?
I think it's a complex question. It's and Upasana, I think, somewhat touched upon it. I guess it's not just about the product and tech. It's about the fact that the society, the landscape of the society, fabric of society, digitization, everything's changing. In that context, the way financial services are experienced or will be experienced as you move forward, that's changing. The public infrastructure is sort of probably unparalleled compared to most places in the world. That's creating newer opportunities, but that's also disrupting what's already been done. So it's a very complex sort of juxtaposition of a lot of different things. In that, so in one sense, you can say, hey, payments is solved or lending is solved or something like that, but not really, because as we see cycles of innovation, we'll see step changes in adoption, and we'll go through sort of an unbundling and rebundling cycle of services. So it's very hard to put my finger on sort of one particular thing and say it's not been done. In a way, we are going through a massive rewrite of the whole ecosystem, and we are probably at in some ways ground zero or level one of that, I would say.
Do you agree with that? What hasn't been done, and why aren't you doing it?
I am doing it. In the last few years, we have scaled to 130 million users, 4 million merchants. That's fairly sizable. However, out of the entire population of 1 billion plus, 800 million Indians have a bank account. But even so, only 300 million are digitally active. So there's a 500 million that's banked, but banking for them means going to the ATM and withdrawing cash. So first I need to get them onto a smartphone. Once they are on a smartphone, they'll start consuming
How
news.
do you get them onto a smartphone?
Well, I'm not getting them onto a smartphone, but there are companies that are getting them onto, because the macro in India is like that. You can buy a smartphone for less than $100. Data cost in India is the cheapest in the world. So anyone who gets a smartphone has unlimited data for the entire month. Those are the kind of plans. Once they start consuming news and content, quickly they come to their first transaction. And that's where I get the user. Then I educate the user that, oh, if you start transacting digitally, now I have a history. Now I can give you credit. I can also give you products where you can invest your money. All of this is yet to happen at the mass level. The banks in India are very good, very strong, about 90 banks, 10, 15 private banks, the remaining are government owned. They've been building the branch-led model. So you set up a nice fancy branch, you walk in. If you have a branch-led model, your operating cost is so high that you can only serve the rich Indians. What I say, the top 100 million, maybe 150 million. So the only way financial products are going to reach the large and upwardly mobile middle classes of India, the young millennials who want everything very conveniently, is going to be on their phone. the smartphone is going to be their key to receiving the financial products which their own bank is not willing to offer.
How long before bank branches are out with the dinosaurs?
Sorry?
How long before bank branches are extinct like the dinosaurs, coming back to Jurassic Park? When are we done with bank branches, all of you?
So we've seen a lot of branches disappear in
Yeah.
the UAE, and I think within the next 2 to 3 years.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's
2 to 3 years?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, I would say we are going to always have branches, but the nature of the relationship is going to completely change, and we'll have lot lesser number of branches than we ever had for different purposes. It's more for business development and sort of you need a presence to give comfort to customers. But yeah, they're largely going to disappear, functioning
Do
the way
you
they're
actually?
functioning.
I mean, I haven't used a bank branch.
I haven't been to a branch in 10 years.
25 years,
Yeah.
since the mid-1990s. Does it give me comfort? More comfort is if you want to speak to them on the phone, which you don't either. Comfort is just knowing your money's there and easy access. You should know.
No, so I think branches will remain in India. I'll tell you why. Because you probably live in a more developed market.
Yeah.
But a country as large as India, and there are areas where there's no branch for 500 kilometers. So you do need branches. If you want to do complicated transactions, like if I want to give the property papers for my land and get a loan against that, then I do probably need to visit and get things done. So you will have branches, but what Ganesh and I were trying to say that for a country as large as India, where the ARPU, the average revenue per user, or the spend per user is so low, so 95% of India earns, less than $500 per month. So if we are going to cater to that user, then most of your regular daily life financial services needs to be completely digitized, no human OpEx associated. So the branches will become maybe smaller, less luxurious, because they are just going to do more of the complicated transactions, maybe even SME focused larger
Less
transactions.
luxurious. Are they luxurious now?
In the cities they are. It's a huge expense. This is a rental value is a huge line item in the bank's P&L.
Yeah. Roger, what do you think?
Again, it really depends on each region and each infrastructure that you're talking about. With regards to the branches, we'll see less. They'll never disappear because there are certain transactions that needs to happen there.
Yeah.
But I'm like you, I mean, not 25 years, but in the last few years, I think I've been to the branch twice. But I'm not happy. I always complain, and I post on Twitter, and then they call me. And yes.
Did they apologize then?
They call me because they don't want me to post more. So now power of social media, because if you're banking with a certain bank and they keep you on the call center call for more than 20 minutes,
You then post on social media.
Where's digital banking? Where's fintech? Where's innovation? Where are these budgets going through? So you need to keep the pressure also on the industry.
But you see the difference. She's actually been to a branch a couple of times in recent years, and so she thinks they'll go away. I've not been to a branch in 10 years, and I think branches will be there. So it's kind of paradoxical.
I bumped into Rowan at lunch. Where is he? Rowan? What's your question? Can we bring a microphone to Rowan? He had a good point which he wanted to make, and he did make to me very eloquently at lunch. And I said, you need to make that point in our next panel discussion. So could we get a microphone to Rowan? Oh, you've got one? There you go. Please, and ask a question at the end.
Thank you, Mark. Mark and I were having a great discussion on systemics, from the meta through to where the rubber hits the road at the micro. I think as I've been, my name is Rowan, I play in systemic innovation, and for my blessings and sins, I was previously an ex-director, including in India for Standard Chartered Bank. I think as I've listened to these wonderful sessions over the last few days, one of the things that I'm curious about is how we lose the system in the silo. And that's both literally in these siloed meetings, which are necessarily siloed, but to what extent, for example, using a question I know Elon Musk had referred to, which is what if the most common mistake of a really good engineer, is to deploy convergence thinking, convergence logic, to optimize the thing that should simply not exist?
Ganesh?
What is the question?
To what extent are you consciously or unconsciously deploying your attention and your resources to optimize the thing that should not exist?
How is your success contributing to the failure of this system? If you think this system is a failed system.
Yes, no, that's a good question, and obviously it's way beyond the scope of whatever time we have. I think in general, look, we operate in emerging markets. We work very closely with regulators, and having sort of been an entrepreneur investor in the Valley and in now emerging markets, I at least say very consciously that we have to work within the system to change the system and bring the system along. We definitely have a DNA challenge in the kind of entrepreneurs we back, which is not to say banks will become extinct, which are the kind of things we hear in some of the very developed markets. But in our markets, we have to work very closely with the system. Systemic change will happen, but it takes time. And one thing we have learned is without working with the regulators closely and with the existing system, I don't think it's possible. So I don't see that contradiction, but the path to getting there is complicated. It's not straightforward, and that's something we struggle with every day. I'm sure we all struggle with every day. But I don't see a contradiction in what we do.
So I don't think that we are trying to destroy something or optimize something that doesn't need to be optimized. I think in my equation, the banks, the insurance companies, the non-banking credit companies are all OEMs. They manufacture the products. It's unfortunate that they manufacture the products, at least in a large market like India, which can only reach a very small percentage of the population. So the role of the fintech is not to kill the bank or these financial institutions. The role of the fintech is to partner with them. So they are my supply chain partners. I leverage their product portfolio, their balance sheet. I curate the right products, but I know what they don't know. I know how to create an app which will attract millions of users and keep bringing those users back to the app. And then I offer them the same products, very simplified, very nicely curated, so that an average person who never had access to those products will be able to appreciate them and use them. So I think we are not trying to optimize something that didn't need optimizing. I do believe that this evolution is bound to happen.
Roger, final words before we wrap?
Absolutely agree. I mean, fintech has taken financial services from financial institutions to technology, and it enabled wider access and adoption. And I think that's the problem that these companies are trying to solve. They're not solving the banking problem, they're solving the individuals' problems. And I think that's key to their success and scale and expansion all over the world.
Raja, Upasana, and Ganesh, massive round of applause. Thank you very, very much. You are allowed to waltz off the stage.